welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling something kind of counterintuitive.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's this whole idea of like a man with no friends and how that can actually be a path to success.
Okay.
Our source material is a motivational speech by Steve Harvey.
Interesting.
I gotta admit, when I first saw the title, I was a bit skeptical, but trust me.
Okay.
This deep dive is packed with thought-provoking insights into loyalty, energy management, and building a circle that truly empowers you.
What's interesting is that Harvey immediately challenges that very skepticism you felt. He dives right into this myth that you need a massive network to make it big.
Right?
Instead, he argues that a smaller, dedicated circle can be way more effective.
I'm starting to see where he's going with this.
Yeah.
It's like that saying quality over quantity. Exactly.
Okay.
But how does that actually play out in terms of achieving your goals?
His point is that a huge network brings a lot of noise.
Okay.
It's conflicting opinions, distractions.
Yeah.
Even people who might unintentionally hold you back. It's almost like you're trying to climb a mountain with a crowd of people.
Yeah.
And they're all pulling you in different directions.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
So are you saying that to be successful, you should just ditch all your friends and go it alone?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
It's not about isolating yourself, but rather being incredibly selective
Okay.
about who you let into your inner circle.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. Have you ever felt pressure to maintain relationships that weren't really serving you or your goals?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe out of obligation or a fear of seeming rude.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
It's tough to say no, especially when you value your relationships.
Right.
But Harvey seems to be suggesting that creating that space for yourself is essential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't advocate for being unkind,
Right.
but he's definitely encouraging a shift in perspective.
Yeah.
He even talks about energy as a currency and how we need to be mindful of who we're giving our energy to.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Energy as currency.
Yeah.
So are we talking about like literal physical energy or more of a mental and emotional energy?
It's both, actually.
Right.
Harvey uses this term energy vampires,
Okay.
which might sound a bit dramatic, but he's really talking about people who drain your enthusiasm,
Yeah.
your motivation,
Right.
and your belief in yourself.
Yeah.
They might be constantly negative, overly demanding of your time and attention, or just generally bring you down without even realizing it.
So how do you know if you've got an energy vampire lurking in your life? And more importantly, what can you do about it?
He doesn't offer a specific checklist,
Right.
but he does encourage listeners to become more aware of how different people make them feel.
Okay.
Think about the people you spend time with. Do they leave you feeling energized and inspired?
Yeah.
Or drained and depleted?
Okay.
Do their words and actions build you up or tear you down?
That's a really insightful way to look at it. It's not always about blatant negativity.
Right.
Sometimes it's more subtle.
Yeah.
Like someone who constantly needs reassurance or validation,
or
who always seems to be bringing their problems to you
right.
without ever offering solutions.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Harvey suggests one of the most powerful things you can do is to start setting boundaries.
Boundary. That's such a buzzword these days.
It is.
But what does it actually mean in this context?
It's about recognizing that you have the right to protect your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being. It means learning to say no to requests or invitations that don't align with your goals.
Right.
Or that, will leave you feeling drained.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Yeah.
It's not about becoming a hermit and shutting everyone out.
Right.
It's about being more discerning about who you let into your inner circle.
Exactly.
And setting clear boundaries to protect your energy and focus on your goals.
Precisely.
Okay.
And Harvey argues that this process often involves differentiating between true loyalty and mere convenience.
That's an interesting distinction.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
He suggests that true loyalty is something that is earned over time.
Okay.
It's about being there for each other through thick and thin.
Yeah.
Offering support and encouragement even when it's difficult.
Right.
True friends, according to Harvey, challenge you to hold you accountable and offer honest feedback even when it's hard to hear.
So it's not just about blindly agreeing with everything someone says or doing whatever they ask.
Right.
It's about having their best interests at heart.
Exactly.
Even if that means having some tough conversations sometimes.
He contrasts this with convenience.
Okay.
which is more about superficial connections that fade away when things get tough.
Right.
He suggests that you'll often find these fair-weather friends disappearing when you need them most, only to resurface when things are going well again.
So how do you know if someone is truly loyal or just there for the convenience?
That's a great question.
What are some signs to look out for?
He suggests looking back on your own experiences.
Okay.
And asking yourself who has been there for you consistently through the ups and downs, who has celebrated your victories and offered shoulder to cry on during tough times.
I'm starting to realize this goes beyond friendship, too.
Oh, yeah.
This applies to family romantic relationships, even colleagues.
Right.
It's about recognizing the difference between those who are truly invested in your well-being and those who are only around when it's easy or beneficial for them.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
And Harvey doesn't shy away from the fact that as you become more focused on your goals, some people might naturally fall away from your circle.
Is he saying it's okay to let those relationships go?
He suggests that it's not about intentionally pushing people away, but rather recognizing that not everyone is meant to be part of every chapter of your life.
Yeah.
Some people come into your life for a season, and that's okay.
So it's about being open to the natural ebb and flow of relationships.
Exactly.
Recognizing that as you grow and evolve, your circle might shift and change as well.
And Harvey argues that this process of refining your circle, even if it means having fewer people in it, is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of strength. It's about recognizing the value of your energy.
Right.
And being intentional about who you share it with.
It's almost like becoming the curator of your own social ecosystem.
Yeah.
Making sure that it's filled with the right kind of energy and support to help you thrive.
That's a great way to put it.
And Harvey believes that this selectivity is a key ingredient in achieving success. He argues that when you surround yourself with the right people, those who are ambitious-driven and supportive of your vision, you create a positive feedback loop that propels everyone forward. It's like having a team of cheerleaders who are not only cheering for you, but also running alongside you, pushing you to be your best, and celebrating every milestone along the way. That sounds pretty amazing, actually.
It is.
But he also points out that true loyalty isn't always about constant presence. Sometimes it's about giving someone the space they need to focus on their goals without demanding their time and energy. It's about understanding that their dedication to their dreams might require them to step back from certain commitments, at least for a while.
Exactly.
So true friends get that you're not being distant or flaky. They understand that your focus needs to be on the bigger picture. And they respect that.
He emphasizes that true loyalty is about supporting each other's growth. Even if that means giving each other space to pursue individual paths. And sometimes he argues, those paths might lead you to walk alone. At least for a certain stretch.
Now, this is where I get a bit hesitant. Is he saying that to be successful, you have to be okay with being completely alone?
It's not about aiming for isolation. He's more nuanced than that. Harvey acknowledges that some paths are too narrow to accommodate a large crowd, and that sometimes the most profound growth happens in those moments of solitude.
I'm starting to see what he means. It's not about seeking out loneliness, but about recognizing that there are times when you need to step back from the noise and distractions of the world. To connect with yourself and your vision more deeply.
You're getting it. He even suggests that those who truly matter will remain by your side. And those who don't weren't meant to be there anyway. It's almost like a natural filtering process where the people who align with your vision and values will stick around, while those who don't will naturally drift away.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like as you become more clear about who you are and what you want, your energy shifts. And the people who resonate with that energy will be drawn to you. While those who don't will naturally gravitate towards something else. But this still brings up the question. If walking alone is sometimes necessary, how do you avoid feeling lonely or isolated? How do you find that balance between pursuing your goals and maintaining meaningful connections?
That's where Harvey's perspective on solitude becomes really interesting. He argues that solitude is not the same as loneliness. In fact, he sees it as a powerful tool for self-discovery and growth.
So it's not about being physically alone,
Yeah,
but about creating that mental and emotional space to connect with yourself.
exactly.
But how do you actually do that?
Right.
I mean, for some people, the idea of spending time alone can be downright terrifying. It can bring up feelings of insecurity, self-doubt, and even a sense of emptiness.
He acknowledges that it can be challenging.
Okay.
But he emphasizes that solitude is not about avoiding connection.
Right.
It's about creating space for introspection, for reflection, for listening to your own inner voice without the influence of others.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like hitting the pause button on the external noise of the world so that you can tune into your own internal compass and get clear on what truly matters to you.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how solitude could be a powerful tool for personal growth.
Yeah.
And even for enhancing creativity and productivity.
He even goes so far as to say that solitude is where the magic happens.
Oh, wow.
He suggests that when you're alone with your thoughts, free from the distractions and opinions of others, you're more likely to tap into your own unique creativity and insights.
It's like you're giving yourself permission to explore your own thoughts and ideas without fear of judgment or criticism, which can be incredibly liberating and empowering.
He also emphasizes that solitude is not a one-time event, but rather a practice that you can cultivate over time. He suggests that even short bursts of solitude, whether it's taking a walk in nature, meditating for a few minutes, or simply sitting in silence with a cup of tea, can have a profound impact on your well-being and your ability to connect with your inner self. Think about it. When have you felt most creative or productive?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Was it in a bustling environment or when you had the space to think and work undisturbed? What were those conditions like and how can you recreate them more often?
I'm starting to see solitude in a whole new light.
Good.
It's not about isolating yourself from the world, but about creating those pockets of quiet time and space to reconnect with yourself and tap into your own inner wisdom.
Exactly.
I think that's something we could all benefit from, regardless of our ambitions or goals.
Absolutely.
But this still leaves me wondering, if solitude is about tuning out the external noise, how do you balance that with the need for feedback and support from others?
That's where Harvey's distinction between seeking validation from others and finding validation within yourself comes into play.
So it's not about becoming completely self-reliant and never asking for help or advice.
Not at all. It's more about recognizing that true confidence and self-belief come from within, not from external sources. He suggests that when you're constantly seeking approval and validation from others, you're giving away your power and diminishing your own sense of worth.
It's like you're putting your self-esteem on a roller coaster, letting it be dictated by the opinions and whims of other people, which can be exhausting and ultimately disempowering.
Exactly. Harvey argues that when you learn to validate yourself, to recognize your own inherent worth and value, you become less dependent on the opinions of others.
And more free to pursue your goals with confidence and authenticity.
That sounds incredibly empowering.
It is.
But it also sounds incredibly challenging. How do you actually shift from seeking external validation to finding that validation within yourself? Where do you even begin?
He doesn't offer a step-by-step guide. But he does encourage listeners to start by becoming more aware of their own thoughts and feelings. He suggests paying attention to the negative self-talk, the doubts and insecurities that often hold us back from pursuing our dreams.
So it's about challenging those negative thoughts and replacing them with more positive and affirming ones.
Precisely. He suggests that we often become our own worst critics. And that learning to be kinder and more compassionate toward ourselves is a key step in building self-validation.
This is starting to feel like a much deeper conversation than just a man with no friends. It's about self-awareness, self-compassion, and recognizing that true strength comes from within. You're absolutely right. It's about understanding that you are enough just as you are, and that your worth is not contingent on the approval or validation of others. And Harvey believes that when you embrace this mindset, you become more resilient, more confident, and more capable of achieving your goals.
This is a lot to unpack.
It is.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into Steve Harvey's take on success and the man with no friends concept.
Yeah.
We've talked about the importance of choosing your circle wisely, setting boundaries to protect your energy, differentiating between true loyalty and convenience, and embracing solitude as a tool for self-discovery and growth.
Yeah.
We've also delved into the power of self-validation and recognizing that true strength comes from within.
Right.
But before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, let's pause here for a moment and give you, our listener, a chance to reflect on what we've discussed so far.
Sounds good.
What resonated with you the most?
Yeah.
What insights surprised you? Yeah. What questions do you still have?
Good questions.
Take a moment to jot down your thoughts.
Okay.
Or simply sit with these ideas for a few minutes.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a moment to continue our exploration of Steve Harvey's insights.
Looking forward to it. It's fascinating how this idea of self-validation connects to Harvey's emphasis on trusting your own vision, even when others might not see it.
That's a great point. It's almost like when you're secure in your own worth, you're less swayed by external opinions.
Right.
And more likely to follow your own path, even if it's unconventional.
Exactly. Harvey argues that many successful people have faced doubters and naysayers along the way.
Right.
But what sets them apart is their ability to trust their gut, to believe in their vision, even when others don't.
That takes a lot of courage, especially when you're surrounded by people who might not understand your dreams, or who might even try to discourage you from pursuing them.
He acknowledges that it can be tough.
Okay.
But he encourages listeners to remember that your vision is yours alone.
Right.
It doesn't belong to your family, your friends, or even your mentors.
Okay.
It's something that comes from deep within you. And it's ultimately up to you to decide whether or not to pursue it.
So it's not about being stubborn or refusing to listen to advice.
No.
But rather about filtering that advice through the lens of your own vision and values.
Exactly. He suggests that you should be open to feedback.
Okay.
But ultimately, trust your own judgment.
Right.
When it comes to making decisions about your life and your goals.
Yeah.
He reminds us that sometimes the people who are closest to us might not be the best people to offer objective advice.
Right.
Especially if they're afraid of us succeeding.
Yeah.
Or if they have their own limiting beliefs that they're projecting onto us.
So it's almost like you have to be willing to be a bit of a maverick, to step outside of your comfort zone and trust that you're heading in the right direction, even if it feels a little scary or uncertain.
He emphasizes that the journey to success is rarely a straight line.
Okay.
There will be detours, roadblocks, and moments where you might feel lost or discouraged.
Right.
But he encourages listeners to embrace those challenges as opportunities for growth and learning, rather than allowing them to derail their dreams.
That's a really important point.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in the idea of success as this glamorous destination. But in reality, it's often a messy and unpredictable journey.
He encourages listeners to focus on the process rather than the outcome. He argues that the real reward is not achieving a specific goal, but rather the person you become along the way. He suggests that the challenges you overcome, the lessons you learn, and the resilience you build are far more valuable than any external marker of success.
That's a powerful perspective.
Yeah.
It's like saying that the journey itself is the destination. But if you're embracing those challenges and learning from those mistakes, it seems like having the right people around you to offer support and guidance would be crucial.
Absolutely. Harvey emphasizes the importance of building a strong support system, even if it's a small one.
Okay.
He argues that the people you surround yourself with can have a profound impact on your mindset, your motivation, and ultimately your success.
He keeps coming back to this idea of quality over quantity, right?
Exactly.
It's not about having a huge network of acquaintances, but rather about having a smaller, more dedicated circle of people who truly believe in you and who are invested in your well-being.
Exactly. And he suggests that these relationships are built on mutual respect, shared values, and a genuine desire to see each other succeed.
Okay.
He argues that true friends challenge you to grow, hold you accountable, and celebrate your victories as if they were their own.
So it's about more than just having people to hang out with or to vent to.
Yeah.
It's about having people who inspire you,
Right.
who push you to be your best self, and who provide a safe and supportive space for you to explore your dreams and pursue your goals.
He also talks about the importance of being a good friend in return. It's not just about receiving support, but also about offering it to others. It's about being present, being a good listener, and being willing to celebrate the successes of your friends just as enthusiastically as you celebrate your own.
It's about recognizing that true friendship is a two-way street.
Exactly.
And that the more you give, the more you receive.
And he also emphasizes the importance of being selective about who you let into your inner circle.
Right.
He argues that not everyone deserves access to your energy, your time, or your vulnerability.
That's where that idea of setting boundaries comes back into play, right?
Exactly.
It's about being willing to say no to requests or invitations that don't align with your goals or that, will drain your energy.
He reminds listeners that saying no is not selfish, but rather a form of self-respect and a commitment to your own well-being.
Right.
He encourages listeners to be clear about their priorities. And to not be afraid to protect their time and energy from those who might not respect those boundaries.
So it's about recognizing that your time and energy are valuable resources.
Right.
And that you have the right to choose how you spend them.
He also talks about the importance of being mindful of the energy you bring to your relationships. He argues that you should strive to be a source of positivity, encouragement, and support for those around you.
So it's about being the kind of friend that you would want to have, someone who uplifts and inspires others, rather than draining their energy or bringing them down.
Exactly. He suggests that by focusing on being a positive and supportive presence in the lives of others, you create a ripple effect that spreads outwards, making the world a better place, one interaction at a time.
That's a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
It's like saying that even small acts of kindness and generosity can have a profound impact on the people around us.
He also encourages listeners to be open to new connections. And to step outside of their comfort zones when it comes to building relationships. He argues that sometimes the most unexpected people can become our greatest allies and supporters.
So it's not about limiting yourself to people who are just like you or who share your exact interests, but rather about being open to diversity and embracing the unique perspectives and experiences that others bring to the table.
He suggests that by expanding your circle to include people from different backgrounds, cultures, and walks of life, you open yourself up to new ideas, new opportunities, and a richer and more fulfilling life experience.
That's a great reminder. It's easy to get stuck in our own bubbles and to surround ourselves with people who are just like us. But true growth and learning often happen when we step outside of those comfort zones and embrace the unknown.
And he also encourages listeners to not be afraid to let go of relationships that are no longer serving them.
So he's not saying to just cut people off without explanation, but rather to recognize that sometimes relationships run their course, and it's okay to move on.
He suggests that holding on to relationships that are draining, toxic, or one-sided only hurts us in the long run. It prevents us from making space for healthier and more fulfilling connections.
So it's about recognizing when a relationship has reached its natural end. And having the courage to let go, even if it's painful.
He reminds listeners that letting go is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of strength and self-respect. It's about prioritizing your own well-being and creating space for new and better relationships to enter your life.
That's a really important message. I think a lot of people struggle with letting go of relationships. Even when they know it's the best thing to do. It can feel like a failure or a betrayal. But Harvey seems to be saying that it's actually an act of self-love.
Exactly. He encourages listeners to view letting go as a form of self-care, a way of honoring your own needs and creating a life that is aligned with your values and goals.
This is really resonating with me. It's like he's saying that building a strong and supportive circle is an ongoing process. One that requires both intentionality and discernment.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing the value of your time, your energy and your emotional well-being, and being willing to make choices that protect and nourish those aspects of yourself.
He emphasizes that building a strong support system takes time and effort. It's not something that happens overnight. It requires being open to new connections, nurturing existing relationships, and being willing to let go of those that are no longer serving you.
And he reminds us that the journey is worth it.
Yeah.
Having a strong and supportive circle can make all the difference in achieving your goals and living a fulfilling and meaningful life.
He also encourages listeners to be patient and to trust the process.
Okay.
He reminds us that not everyone comes into our lives at the same time or stays for the same duration. Some people are meant to be lifelong friends, while others come into our lives for a season, teaching us valuable lessons or offering support during a specific chapter of our journey.
So it's about recognizing that relationships ebb and flow.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's about being grateful for the time we have with the people who matter to us, whether it's for a lifetime or just for a moment.
He also encourages listeners to be open to the possibility of rekindling old friendships.
Interesting.
He suggests that sometimes people drift apart due to circumstances.
Yeah.
Not because of any ill will or wrongdoing.
Right.
And that by reaching out and reconnecting, we can often rebuild those bridges and create even stronger bonds than before.
That's a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that it's never too late to mend fences, to forgive, and to create new beginnings.
He also talks about the importance of forgiveness in the context of relationships.
Right.
He argues that holding on to grudges and resentment only hurts us in the long run. It prevents us from moving on from healing and from creating new and healthy connections.
So it's about recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, including ourselves.
Right.
And that forgiveness is not about condoning bad behavior.
Exactly.
Or about freeing ourselves from the burden of anger and resentment.
He suggests that forgiveness is an act of self-love.
Okay.
A way of releasing ourselves from the past and creating space for peace and healing in our lives.
That's a really powerful message.
Right?
I think a lot of people struggle with forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when they've been deeply hurt by someone.
Yeah.
But Harvey seems to be saying that it's ultimately for our own benefit, not for the benefit of the person who wronged us.
He encourages listeners to view forgiveness as a gift to themselves.
Okay.
A way of letting go of the pain and anger that are holding them back from living a full and joyful life.
This conversation is really making me think about the role of forgiveness in my own life.
Yeah.
And how it might be blocking me from moving forward in certain areas.
He also emphasizes that forgiveness is a process, not a one-time event. It might take time, effort, and a lot of introspection to truly forgive someone, especially if they've caused us a great deal of pain.
Right.
But he suggests that the journey is worth it because forgiveness ultimately leads to greater peace, happiness, and freedom.
So it's not about sweeping things under the rug or pretending that everything is okay,
Right.
but rather about acknowledging the hurt, processing the emotions, and choosing to let go of the anger and resentment.
He encourages listeners to be patient with themselves.
Okay.
And to not expect forgiveness to happen overnight.
Right.
He reminds us that healing takes time and that it's okay to seek support from therapists, counselors, or spiritual advisors if we need help navigating the process.
This is really making me think about the importance of self-care in the context of forgiveness. It's not just about forgiving others, but also about forgiving ourselves for our own mistakes and shortcomings.
He emphasizes that self-forgiveness is just as important as forgiving others.
Right.
He suggests that we're often our own harshest critics and that we hold ourselves to impossibly high standards.
So it's about recognizing that we're all human, that we all make mistakes.
Exactly.
And that we all deserve compassion and understanding, including from ourselves.
He encourages listeners to practice self-compassion, to speak to themselves with kindness and understanding, and to forgive themselves for past mistakes.
He reminds us that we can't change the past,
Right.
but we can learn from it and move forward with greater wisdom and self-awareness.
He also talks about the importance of setting realistic expectations in relationships.
Okay.
He argues that no relationship is perfect.
Right.
And that all relationships will have their ups and downs.
So it's about recognizing that conflict is a natural part of any close relationship.
Exactly.
And that it doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is doomed.
He suggests that by accepting that disagreements and challenges are inevitable, we can approach them with greater understanding and compassion, rather than viewing them as deal breakers.
So it's about learning to navigate those challenges in a healthy and constructive way, rather than avoiding them or allowing them to escalate into major conflicts.
He encourages listeners to communicate openly and honestly with their loved ones, to listen with empathy,
Right.
and to be willing to compromise when necessary.
It's about recognizing that relationships are a two-way street.
Exactly.
And that both parties need to feel heard, respected, and valued.
He also talks about the importance of setting boundaries in relationships.
Okay.
Even with our closest friends and family members.
So it's about recognizing that we have the right to protect our time, our energy, and our emotional well-being, even in the context of close relationships.
He suggests that by setting clear and healthy boundaries, we can prevent resentment from building up and ensure that our relationships remain balanced and supportive.
It's about recognizing that we can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
And that it's okay to say no to requests or demands that we're not comfortable with.
He encourages listeners to communicate their boundaries clearly and respectfully, and to be willing to enforce them when necessary.
So it's about recognizing that healthy relationships require both love and limits.
He also talks about the importance of celebrating the successes of our friends and loved ones.
So it's not just about being there for them during tough times, but also about sharing in their joy and accomplishments.
He suggests that by celebrating the wins of others, we create a more positive and supportive environment for everyone.
It's about recognizing that their successes don't diminish our own, but rather inspire us to reach for our own goals and dreams.
He encourages listeners to be generous with their praise and encouragement, to express their pride and admiration for their loved ones, and to celebrate their achievements with enthusiasm and joy.
It's about creating a culture of support and celebration within our relationships, where everyone feels seen, appreciated, and encouraged to pursue their passions.
He also talks about the importance of showing up for our friends and loved ones in tangible ways.
So it's not just about offering words of encouragement, but also about taking action to support them in their endeavors.
He suggests that by offering practical help, whether it's babysitting their kids, lending a hand with a project, or simply being a listening ear, we demonstrate our love and care in a tangible way.
It's about showing up for them, not just in word, but also in deed, demonstrating our commitment to their well-being through concrete actions.
He encourages listeners to be proactive in offering their support, to ask how they can help, and to be willing to go the extra mile to make a difference in the lives of their loved ones.
It's about recognizing that true friendship is about more than just sharing good times. It's about being there for each other through thick and thin, offering support and encouragement when it's needed most.
He also talks about the importance of being a good listener.
So it's not just about offering advice or solutions, but about truly hearing and understanding the perspective of the other person.
He suggests that by listening with empathy and without judgment, we create a safe and supportive space for our loved ones to share their thoughts and feelings without fear of criticism.
It's about recognizing that sometimes people just need to be heard, and that our presence and attention can be the greatest gift we can offer.
He encourages listeners to practice active listening,
to
ask clarifying questions, to reflect back what they've heard, and to validate the feelings of the other person.
It's about demonstrating that we care about what they have to say, that we value their perspective, and that we're there for them no matter what.
He also talks about the importance of being present in our relationships.
So it's not just about physically being in the same room, but about being fully engaged and attentive when we're with our loved ones.
He suggests that in today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get distracted by our phones, our to-do lists, and the constant stream of information that's vying for our attention.
It's true.
But he reminds us that our relationships deserve our full presence, our undivided attention, and our genuine interest.
So it's about putting down our phones, turning off the TV, and making eye contact, truly listening, and being fully present in the moment with the people who matter most to us.
He encourages listeners to be mindful of their distractions, to make a conscious effort to be present in their interactions, and to savor the time they have with their loved ones, knowing that these moments are precious and fleeting.
This is such a powerful reminder. It's easy to take our relationships for granted.
It is.
Especially in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. But Harvey is reminding us to slow down, to be present, and to appreciate the gift of connection.
He also talks about the importance of expressing our love and appreciation for our friends and loved ones.
So it's not just about assuming they know how we feel.
No.
But about actively expressing our gratitude and affection for them.
He suggests that we often take our loved ones for granted,
Right.
assuming they know how much we care about them. But he reminds us that words of affirmation, gestures of kindness, and expressions of love can go a long way in strengthening our bonds and creating a more loving and supportive environment.
So it's about making a conscious effort to express our love.
Yeah.
Whether it's through words, actions, or simply our presence.
He encourages listeners to tell their loved ones how much they mean to them. To write them heartfelt notes, to give them thoughtful gifts, to plan special outings, and to simply make time for them in their busy schedules.
It's about recognizing that our relationships are precious.
Right.
And deserve to be nurtured, celebrated, and cherished.
He also talks about the importance of being patient and understanding in our relationships.
So it's about recognizing that everyone is different. That we all have our own unique quirks and challenges. And that it's okay to not always agree or see eye to eye.
He suggests that by practicing patience and understanding, we create a more compassionate and supportive environment where people feel safe to be themselves without fear of judgment or criticism.
It's about recognizing that our loved ones are not perfect, that they will make mistakes, and that they will sometimes disappoint us. But he reminds us that true love is about accepting them for who they are, flaws and all, and being willing to work through challenges together.
He encourages listeners to practice empathy, to put themselves in the shoes of the other person, and to try to understand their perspective, even if it differs from their own.
It's about recognizing that our way is not the only way, and that there is often more than one right answer.
He also talks about the importance of communication in relationships.
So it's about being open and honest with our loved ones, sharing our thoughts and feelings, and being willing to listen to their perspective.
He suggests that communication is the foundation.
It sounds like communication is crucial for navigating all these different aspects of relationships, but if we're talking about that man with no friends concept, how does open communication play into that? It seems almost contradictory.
That's where the nuance comes in. Harvey isn't advocating for shutting down communication entirely. Instead, he's highlighting the importance of being selective about who we engage in deep, vulnerable conversations with.
So it's not about closing yourself off from the world, but about choosing your confidants wisely.
Precisely, he argues that sharing your dreams and fears with too many people can dilute their power. It's like trying to start a fire with wet wood. You need focused energy, not scattered efforts.
That's an interesting analogy. So are you saying that we should only share our most personal thoughts and feelings with a select few people?
He suggests that deep sharing is best reserved for those who have proven themselves trustworthy, supportive, and genuinely invested in your well-being. Think about it this way. Have you ever regretted sharing something personal with someone who then used it against you or dismissed it as unimportant?
I think we've all had those experiences where we felt betrayed or misunderstood. It can make you hesitant to open up again.
That's why Harvey stresses the importance of discernment. He suggests that true confidants are rare and that finding them often involves a process of trial and error. It's about paying attention to how people respond when you share something vulnerable. Do they listen with empathy? Do they offer support without judgment? Or do they minimize your feelings or try to offer unsolicited advice?
It's like you're testing the waters to see who can handle the depth of your thoughts and emotions without causing a ripple effect that throws everything off balance. But this idea of being selective about who you open up to, doesn't that contradict the idea of building a supportive circle?
Not necessarily. It's more about recognizing that different levels of relationships require different levels of sharing. You might have a wide circle of friends and acquaintances who you enjoy socializing with, but only a handful of truly trusted individuals who you feel comfortable confiding in about your deepest fears and aspirations.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having different layers of intimacy within your relationships, and it's about recognizing that not everyone needs to have access to every layer.
Exactly, and Harvey argues that this selectivity isn't about being secretive or aloof. It's about honoring the sacredness of your own inner world and sharing it only with those who have earned the privilege of witnessing it.
This is really making me think about my own relationships and how I share different parts of myself with different people. It's a reminder to be intentional about who I confide in and to make sure that I'm not oversharing with people who haven't earned that level of trust. But if we're talking about being intentional, where does that leave the role of spontaneity and serendipity in our lives? It seems like this approach to building a circle might make it harder to form new connections.
That's a valid concern. But Harvey isn't suggesting that you shut yourself off from new experiences or potential friendships. It's more about approaching those new encounters with a sense of discernment.
So it's not about being closed off, but about being mindful.
Exactly. He suggests that you can still be open to meeting new people and exploring new friendships, but to do so with a sense of awareness about who you allow into your inner circle and what information you choose to share.
It's almost like having a filter that helps you sift through those new encounters and identify those who might be worth investing in more deeply.
That's a great analogy. And he emphasizes that this filtering process isn't about being judgmental or dismissive. It's about recognizing that not every connection is meant to be a deep and lasting friendship. Some people come into our lives for a season, and that's okay.
So it's about being open to the natural ebb and flow of relationships, understanding that some will blossom into lifelong friendships, while others will fade away as our paths diverge.
He encourages listeners to view those fleeting connections as valuable experiences, even if they don't result in lifelong friendships. Each interaction, he argues, offers an opportunity to learn, grow, and expand our perspectives.
That's a really positive way to look at it. It's like saying that every person we meet has something to teach us, whether it's a new skill, a different way of thinking, or simply a reminder of our own humanity.
Exactly. And Harvey believes that by approaching our relationships with this sense of openness and curiosity, we create more opportunities for growth and fulfillment in our lives.
But this still leaves me with one big question. If this deep dive is meant to help our listener build a support system that empowers their success, what practical advice can we offer? What are some tangible steps they can take to start creating that kind of intentional circle?
It's a great question, and Harvey does offer some practical suggestions. He emphasizes the importance of self-reflection as a starting point. He encourages listeners to spend time getting clear about their own values, goals, and aspirations.
So it's about knowing yourself before you can truly connect with others on a deeper level.
Exactly. He suggests that when you're clear about who you are and what you want, you're more likely to attract people who align with your vision and who can support you on your journey.
It's like you become a magnet for the right kind of energy. But how do you actually do that? How do you get clear about your values and goals?
He recommends practices like journaling, meditation, and spending time in nature. He also suggests seeking out mentors or role models who embody the qualities you admire and who can offer guidance and support.
So it's about finding those people who are a few steps ahead of you on the path you want to take and learning from their experiences.
He also encourages listeners to be proactive in seeking out connections with like-minded individuals. He suggests joining groups, attending events, and volunteering for causes that align with your passions.
That's a great point. It's about putting yourself out there and creating opportunities to connect with people who share your interests and values.
And he reminds us that building meaningful connections takes time and effort. It's not something that happens overnight. It requires being patient, being persistent, and being willing to nurture those connections over time.
So it's about being intentional, being authentic, and being open to the possibility of forming deep and meaningful connections, even if it takes a little time and effort.
He encourages listeners to be themselves, to let their authentic selves shine, and to trust that the right people will be drawn to their energy.
So there you have it, our deep dive into Steve Harvey's perspective on success and the man with no friends concept. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the importance of choosing your circle wisely to the power of solitude and self-validation. But ultimately, Harvey's message is one of empowerment.
He reminds us that we have the power to shape our own lives, to choose the people we surround ourselves with, and to create a support system that empowers us to achieve our goals and live a fulfilling and meaningful life.
And while the idea of a man with no friends might seem counterintuitive, we've explored how this concept can actually be a catalyst for growth, self-discovery, and building a circle that truly supports our journey.
The key takeaway here, listener, is that you are not alone. Even if you feel like you're walking a solitary path, there are people out there who will resonate with your energy, who will appreciate your authenticity, and who will support you on your journey. It's about being intentional, being discerning, and trusting that the right connections will come into your life at the right time.
And as you continue on your own path to success, remember the words of Steve Harvey. Surround yourself with people who uplift and inspire you, who challenge you to grow, and who believe in your vision even when you doubt yourself. And never forget that your worth comes from within, not from the opinions of others.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something for you to ponder, listener.
If you were to write a user manual for yourself, a guide to understanding your needs, your values, the kind of support that best fuels your growth, what would it say? Keep those insights in mind as you navigate your own journey, and until next time, keep diving deep.